That is good banter.
Yeah. So, all right, well, you lead us into it, Timmy.
All right. Well, I'll
Timmy Sargent.
Right.
That's an in thing.
Bantito thing.
Right.
Yeah.
I will preface this by saying, first of all, we have Matt Hardy in. Thanks very much for coming along. So I owe you. We worked together on the footy show.
Yeah,
for a while,
keep it down.
Writing on the footy show.
I think you sunk it, didn't you?
Well, I think we were the
No, Limo was the last host. Limo and his big, massive intellectual specs.
But we've talked on this podcast before about my run-in with Eddie Maguire, and we joked about it. But it was actually I was going through a really fucking rough time at the time. Like I was really struggling. I was fucking hating it at the footy show. I wanted to get out, and everyone was saying, "Oh mate, we'll help you out," but no one really did. But you were the one person out of everyone there that you rang me every night while I was going through all the shit, and you could see that I was struggling and not enjoying it and having a bit of a bloody nervous breakdown. So I don't think I've ever thanked you for that. So
No worries, mate.
And my wife would always say, "Is that Matt again?" Fuck. She loved the fact that you kept calling me because
I'm happy with that.
others didn't. So it was So right off the bat, you're a good man.
Well, thank you, mate. I think it's just common courtesy, isn't it? I was brought up in this area. We're in the Notting Hill Hotel.
We are, and my old man, he grew up in Oakley,
Yeah.
and he said the Notting Hill, used to be a fucking rough pub.
Well, it was rough, but it was honourable. And there was a lady called Kath Byer, rhymes with Jack Dyer, whose family first owned this pub, in fact. When he was like a little kid, there's a photograph of him, in knee-high socks. But anyway, Kath Byer was this lady that always looked to me like the queen, right? Immaculately dressed.
Pint of gin.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
And so this used to be, well, it still is, it's white collar and blue collar combining. There's a lot of offices nearby, and there's a lot of joints where you can get your tradie supplies. Unis as well, right? So Kath Byer used to sponsor all the local sports clubs. And when I say sponsor, pay for the jumpers, pay for the pie nights, provide rooms within the pub for functions. So she sort of win you over when you're a kid. You didn't even realise that your family were taking you to all the birthdays at the Notting Hill Hotel.
Yeah.
Or you'd see your mates, when you came here for one of those birthdays, they were also here for a similar reason. But the last payday before Christmas, when people used to get paid fortnightly and on Thursdays, last payday on Christmas used to be chaos here, right? Because everyone was getting shit-faced. The boss was usually paying for your booze.
Yep.
So you're misbehaving. And there'd be fist fights. They used to have gravel outside and chickens. And fist fights would break out, right, between huge tradie blokes, right? And it's like Jacko versus Ronnie Andrews type size fellas.
Yeah.
And then Kath Byer, like imagine the queen herself, would just come out amongst them and go, fellas, don't be silly. Yeah. Don't be silly. It's Christmas. Now, I know you've got a wife and child, and I know your wife, because she works here sometimes part-time. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. You leave your keys at the bar, the both of you. You've had too many, obviously, right? If you couldn't sort an argument out verbally, you've had too many. Leave your keys at the bar. I've called a taxi for half an hour. I've put 2 beers on the bar, and you're going to drink them together. And if you don't, neither of you are welcome back here again.
Yeah.
Right, so shake hands. Stop being stupid.
Give each other a hand job. And really...
But I remember watching that happen and go, what? It was almost like a moral compass provided by the local pub.
Yeah.
Or a lesson in ethics. And those blokes would shake hands.
In a way, it's psychology as well. It's a little bit of a psychology lesson.
I suppose so, yeah.
Maybe.
But can you imagine you having a massive fist fight and then like a little old lady comes in and tells you you're being silly?
Yeah.
It totally diffuses it, as opposed to if you throw in another big bloke in the form of a bouncer, that almost inflames it.
Yes.
Yeah. Bouncers haven't stopped too many fights over the years.
No. But Kath Byer has.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. And you'd have to leave your keys on the bar. They'll be here tomorrow morning. There's a taxi coming in half an hour. You're going to drink with each other until it arrives.
So you grew up this area.
Every pub needs a Kath Byer.
Yeah.
So I think partly when you're saying thank you for caring for me or being kind or, giving us a shout when I'm on a downer, I don't know, hopefully people did that for me or know they have at different times. And so do unto others. I'm not religious.
Yep.
Apart from Trevor Barker being God, the late great St Kilda star.
Big St Kilda man.
Yeah. But anyway, so I'm happy I'm happy that you remembered that.
Yeah, no, I did, and it did mean a lot. So thank you.
Well, I was spewing. It wasn't totally. I was spewing because your character, the suburban footballer, who your listeners and viewers would be, well aware of, is brilliant. One of the best. I reckon that's up there with Con the Fruiter or Colin Carpenter or
Kylie Mole.
Kylie Mole. It is. It's one of the best, most classic Aussie comedy characters ever. You're brilliant at it. You wrote it, created it, deliver it. Audiences love it. And I'd been given the role of creative producer at the Footy Show, and they basically said you've got carte blanche, which I think means full control.
Yep.
And it turned out I didn't at all, but they told me that. And the only thing I managed to really get on air amongst about 50 different sort of segment suggestions, or like I had an idea because Street Talk that was made famous by Sammy Newman was starting to get, I think, possibly some legitimate criticism about making fun of the less intelligent among our community.
Most of our listeners.
Yeah, right. So us three here.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I thought, why don't you do a segment called Seat Talk? And so you cut to the audience, and Sammy's already there with a couple of people that we've vetted who might be eccentric or unique individual, but not necessarily have Down syndrome or obvious mental health, ailments. and I thought that was work of art. You're not killing off the segment. Yeah. You're just slightly refining it.
Yep.
And I remember when I first came back, I did a decade of stand-up in London. And when I first came back in the early 2000s and started listening to Aussie radio, American Rosso were massive on Triple J.
Yep.
And then moved on to Nova. And if I'm correct, what they used to do, because I've never really liked... So I did 3 years on SEN, Sports Entertainment Network. And I used to hate that we have to get Ken the Carpenter from Carnegie to ring in with what he thinks about, Josh and fucking Nick Dacos.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I thought, well, if you're employing 3 people on a lot of money to talk, why are we sitting back and listening to some arsehole stuck in a traffic jam, right?
Yep.
So American Rosso, if I remember correctly, used to get people to email in their funny stories about the topic of the day.
Yep.
Then they would decide which stories were good and read them out themselves with their own comedic timing and inflection. And so you get the best of both worlds.
Yep.
But, you're always being handed a grenade with the pin out of it if you're doing radio and, the producer puts you onto a caller. Because you don't know whether they're going to be entertaining.
100%.
And if you, God forbid, dare to cut them off because they're boring as batshit, then you get 58 people calling in saying you were rude.
Well, I remember, and they might not have been the first to do this, but it was the first I ever saw it, and it was I used to laugh. American Rosso, whenever they had a caller that was sort of rambling on, they'd be like, okay, and then they'd start playing The Never-Ending Story, and they'd just fade the person out.
Nice.
Oh, it was so good.
Yeah.
The Never-Ending Story.
Anyway, what's that got to do with the Footy Show? Oh yeah, so I only managed to get one. I only managed to get one segment on the air, really. I think, if I recall correctly, and got paid for a whole year, and that was you.
Yep.
And I don't want to go into the details, but you, I believe it might have been the first time or the first season. It was 2018. Of the show in which they started chopping up little bits and putting it on social media.
Yep.
And if I recall correctly, yours almost rated higher than the whole show itself. Your segment.
Well, my segment was the highest rated segment
on social media.
On social media for the Footy Show, which I was so proud of, but I didn't repost it or brag about it or anything because...
You were worried it was going to kill the routine for future live performances?
Well, it had about 7 of my best suburban footballer jokes in there. And I remember the first gig after my first spot on the Footy Show, all of those jokes got nothing. And I was like, oh fuck, I've just killed them. But it was 4 weeks later, they'd just forgotten about it and they came back to life.
Yeah.
But
my thinking was that you, me, Des Dowling, Bridget Duclos, the various writers involved, would, from that first debut appearance onwards, write weekly new stuff with you for the character that you could then take to live performance. But, you were in a world of hell, which I didn't know the full details of, but I could see and understand that that wasn't the right time for you to, do all that. And especially, of course, that would cause you concern when a large chunk of your income is jeopardised because you think that you've given all the best jokes away to a national audience.
Well, that was the falling out with Eddie because he insisted that I did all my nicknames. And I just said, mate, I can't do it.
Yeah.
And
all your nicknames?
Or because a big part of the show was the nicknames. And quite often I would warm up the crowd off camera with the nicknames.
Yes,
and
that's right.
You'd see Eddie in the corner just...
I like that.
I like that. And then he said, mate, right off the top of the show, we're gonna get you to do this. I said, mate, I can't do it.
Yeah.
But with that job, and it was my first real writing job, I could not believe the amount of work we would put into something, and then it would just be like, we've got someone was caught pissing on an ATM. Fev was caught pissing on an ATM, so we're scrapping all of that. And I honestly felt like we're working for no result or no fucking anything.
Well,
and there was...
This is going out in the public domain, so I've got no further comment.
No, well, it's going to Patreon, so it's going to 100 people, mate.
Yeah, right.
But I don't think... I realise as a writer, whether you're on the project or whatever you're doing, that's part of it. You throw out 100 things and 2 might stick. But I just felt like we were... Like nothing was... Like,
throwing shit against the wall.
No traction. Yeah. Wheels are spinning.
Yeah.
Well, run us through because I know I was gigging with you at that time, Tommy, and I think I came in and did something for you.
Yeah, you did a couple of brilliant sketches.
Yeah. But what is run it through people who aren't, because people watch live TV and they just think, oh, how does it all come together? So what was your weekly thing of putting the footy show together?
Well, pick another topic.
All right. Don't want to go there.
Genuinely don't want to talk about it because it was a different experience than I'd ever experienced before.
Yeah.
And I wrote on the sketch show, which was the first ever BAFTA award that ITV won in the UK. So I got pedigree, guys.
Well, do you want to quickly go back to your stand-up career? Because Australia, how long have you been doing?
Right, so I'm 54 now. And in 1992, I'd done about 6 months of stand-up, and I got quite good quite quick, if I say so myself.
Yep.
I went and watched. I was working at the Reserve Bank of Australia. I was a counterfeit surveillance officer.
My old man worked there.
Did he?
Not in 92.
Well, they were the biggest bunch of pissheads. If you were going to do business with the Reserve Bank of Australia, the Reserve Bank, that sets our interest rates, as we're all well aware right now in particular. If you were going to do business with them after 2 o'clock on any given afternoon, you could have taken them to the cleaners, and maybe people did, I don't know. But bosses would mock you for going back on time from the pub after lunch and go, mate, I've just got another round in. What are you doing? Bloody, I've got $50 on the nose of fucking race 5 at Doomden. Fucking what? So the women as well.
Yep.
Massive pissheads at the Reserve Bank. And I became one, if I wasn't already. But they've actually taught me the ropes. And anyway.
So you were working there?
Yeah, I was working there.
Yeah. Have you held $1 million?
Yes, every day.
I've held $1 million.
Yeah, it's like, they wrap it and stack it like slabs.
Yeah.
Like walking into a party with a slab on your shoulder.
Oh, yeah.
But we would all just talk about how to steal it. One bloke did. One bloke whose nickname was Rowdy, because he was quiet, got knocked back for 3 separate promotions 3 years in a row, and decided he'd give himself one. And at the time, indoor cricket was massive to the point where people would play indoor cricket during their lunch break, right, against other
in
workplaces.
The
but you'd carry your cricket coffin in with your bat and your pads and all that stuff, right? And so it was like all a series of Get Smart doors that you had to walk into, about 8 floors underground, where the gold and the cash was. And the guards and the people, as happens, became blasé about it. You'd be walking in with, you could have put 10 million... You could have put 10 slabs in that cricket bag and not have a bat or a pair of gloves in there, right? So but Rowdy was...
Pre-cameras?
Oh, there was probably cameras, but it was just it was slack.
Yeah,
Everyone was pissed all the time.
Yeah.
And you'd be mates. You'd be drinking with or chasing chicks alongside the security guards. After work, or go to the footy with them and stuff. So it wasn't... Anyhow, this guy Rowdy, the $2 coins had just come in. And
what year are we talking there?
I reckon about 1990.
1990.
And so literally last century. And this guy Rowdy started basically slipping rolls of $2 coins down his... I don't think they even had metal detectors, but down like everywhere. Like if you're sneaking beers into a bar, right? And you've got them like up your sleeve.
Yeah.
Shawshank Redemption.
Right?
Shaking them out.
And he ended up stealing more than $1 million.
Through $2 coins?
Yeah, through $2 coins, just relentlessly day after day, and moving decimal points on the paperwork. Anyway, he didn't get caught, right? So
until now.
No, he quit.
You've thrown him under.
No, he didn't get caught, but about 3 years later, he'd gone actually mad, and he'd gone mad because he didn't get the thrill of the workplace knowing that he'd fucked them over.
Yeah.
Right? So he got away with the crime, but he didn't realise that didn't give him the thrill of, like, holding the finger up and go...
Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah, teach you
So
to...
he wasn't after the money at all. It wasn't about the money.
Apparently not,
it was about
right?
the thrill.
But anyway, then he went to court and they said, where's the money? And basically he'd made about 3 regular hookers, like in his own head, his wife or girlfriend.
Yeah.
And they were happy to let him play along with that.
Where do you
Yeah,
slip the $2 coins? It's more strippers.
To make
but-
them work, like the old horse outside the
Yeah,
butcher's.
maybe it is. Or maybe like the guide dog into their head.
Anyway, so then he fessed up. But when they said, where's the money? Like he'd bought all these hookers, like townhouses or put mortgages down, or he bought them cars And so, anyway, they put him in the loony bin because he had gone loony, the poor bastard, and he's no longer with us. He went so mad. Anyway, so there's an upbeat story about... so at the end, on Friday nights at the Reserve Bank, we'd go out, right, on the piss, and one of the nights we went to The Last Laugh, which was the big comedy club in Melbourne at the time, in Smith Street, Collingwood, and upstairs was a smaller room called Lee Joke, and you'd see Russell Gilbert and Glenn Robbins and Trevor Marmalade and Richard Stubbs, all the legends of the era, Wendy Harmer... And you just could not believe that all these people were so awesome, and a lot of them you hadn't heard of yet.
Yeah.
And so I remember asking Richard Stubbs after one particular night, and also I thought comedy was Rodney Rude, right? As in inflatable buttocks and fart jokes and ethnic and
Telling
sexist.
everyone to get fucked.
Yeah, and funny hats, and that's what I thought comedy was. I didn't realise until I saw Richard Stubbs, who no one I think really knows of now, like he was massive back then. But
well, he's gigging again
he's
now.
Great. He's still
and,
great.
He's great, and I know that he obviously doesn't have he's got a little bit of social media, but the young kids or young room runners, they just
don't know who he is.
They're like, no. And,
well, he probably hasn't performed. He hasn't probably performed on a regular basis, either live or in the media, since before they were born. So it's no one's fault. Anyhow, he to me was the best comic in the country for ages, and possibly still the best comic I've seen Australia produce. But he, I waited till he'd finished doing his stand-up set and was hanging around, and I was pissed, and I was in my suit because I'd been at work that day. And I went, do you get paid for that? And he goes, yeah. Why? I said, it looks like you're having so much fun and you're just wearing like a jeans and a T-shirt. There's no like show to the business. Yeah. And he goes, mate, that's the greatest compliment I've ever received. That looks like I would be doing it even if I wasn't getting paid. And he goes, yeah, I get paid. And why are you interested? And I went, well, I don't know, but it looks pretty fucking awesome that you're just standing there saying stuff.
Yeah.
And he was one of those guys too that, Rodney Rude isn't telling truths.
Yes.
He's just telling jokes. And he's great at it, probably the best I've ever seen. But he wasn't just talking about his boss at work or his car breaking down or his kids shitting him or his mum's forgetfulness or something.
And you've got a 5-minute bit on $2 coins getting smuggled out of the Reserve Bank. You need to get on stage.
To get out there, yeah. So then he said, well, look, in 3 months' time, we're doing a 8-week run of Tuesday tryout nights. I'm emceeing. So people who come along are going to get their value because I'm a pro and I'll do bits between the newcomers. And if you want to be one of the newcomers, put your name down within a week for either one or all of the 8 weeks.
Yep.
And then you've got 3 months to try and think up 5 minutes worth of stuff. But if that goes well and they have you back the next week, you need another 5 minutes of stuff. So that was perfect for me. And I did that and went reasonably well. I was doing weird shit too.
How old are you then?
About 19.
Yeah, that's crazy to do that at 19.
Well, I wouldn't have if I hadn't have seen Richard Stubbs in a T-shirt and jeans as opposed to Rodney Rude's funny hat and inflatable bum and farts and songs about wogs.
You had one of the great bits about shitting yourself at the airport, and that was a long bit. Like that sort of is the type of bit that would be back in now.
You reckon?
I reckon.
Well, so because I remember you start off, and my first ever joke was I saw a newspaper headline. Remember they used to have it in a little cage at the front of the newsagent, like whatever the headline was.
Yeah.
And one of my favourites was Lockett in disco scuffle. Right?
Yeah.
So Plugger had belted the president of the Saints at a nightclub the night before a game.
Yep.
And still played. Like, it was the president's fault for headbutting Lockett's fist.
Yeah.
Right? After Lockett refused to go home because it was 3 a.m. and they had to play at 2 p.m. the next day. He probably still kicked 17, I think. Yeah. Anyway, but it said, the headline said, 90-year-old bashing victim critical. And I naturally thought, of course they're going to be critical. They're not going to compliment the fucking left-right combination that they got hit with. And so I tried that for my first ever joke, got a huge laugh.
Great.
And I did everything but crack a fat. And I don't know, there might have been a couple more laughs for the rest of the 5 minutes, but it was such a massive, because I hadn't done drugs at the time of any kind. I hadn't had sex at the time. So, the thrills and the adrenaline rushes available to humans, I'd missed out on the first couple, and then this sort of like I didn't. Matt, as you blokes know, every laugh you get, but especially your first one ever, But still to this day, I cannot believe that any of us. So what we effectively are doing when we walk on a stage, especially if they've come to see a quality comedy club with a good reputation, and they don't know the acts, but they'll trust that we're all going to be good, right? Imagine if you walked into a party, right? It's at someone's house. It's in full flow. You walk in, there's people passing a joint in the kitchen. There's someone passing on out in the back garden. There's people speaking shit in the lounge. There's music, right? Conversations up the stairwell, whatever. You walk into a party. You go, turn all the lights on. Turn all the music off. Every single conversation between every group of people stop.
Yep.
You don't know me, but what I'm going to say is immediately more interesting and more funny than any of your conversations, whether you've known each other for 5 years, 25 years, whether you're black, white, rich, old, man, woman, gay, straight, right? And then prove it. Then prove that your claim is correct rather than get your head punched in as you should do. That's what, for any of us to step on a stage to a room full of strangers, it's different if they've come to see you because they've already followed your podcast and, you know, they're fans, but and succeed by just talking.
I think
just talking words.
I think that's
it's fucking witchcraft.
Sorry. I think that's when it doesn't go well, that's the humiliating bit.
Beyond that.
It's the equivalent to walking up to a guy that doesn't want to fight, pushing him, saying, let's go, and him just absolutely kicking the shit out of you. Because you're showing, although
arrogance.
It's showing an element of arrogance, confidence, which although a lot of us don't naturally have, just being up there is, we think we're funny.
But also, think we're funny. I find it a bit, because now I don't play football anymore, I find it a bit of form of competition, adrenaline. Some of the gigs you go into, that is like, you know, you're stretching up before the gig, you know, because you realise you're in for a fight here. This is going to... So I reckon I get a lot of my competitive juices out because I can't run anymore. I can't fucking do anything. The comedy is that... And you don't have to drink. Like, you can have the highs and lows of a comedy gig where you get off and it's like you've had 5 beers. Like, that was great.
It's a rush. And for probably 70% of the planet, it is their... It's not just something they probably don't want to do. It is their biggest fucking fear.
Well, I think
would rather...
I think one of the Ivy League universities in the States, right, whether it's Princeton or Harvard or whatever, they do an annual study of, you know, humans' greatest fears. And public speaking comes above death every year. Death. Now, what I don't get, if we're doing comedy, everyone knows it's like a contract between the audience and us that at the end of most sentences or throughout the sentences, there are going to be laughs, right? And if there aren't laughs, you are failing. But people who are afraid of public speaking when they're doing a speech that doesn't need to get laughs, just a corporate conference or something, I don't know why there's any nerves involved because there's no way of proving whether you did well or not.
Unless you...
It's not like you're a band and at the end of the song you do a big fucking double strum and bow and it's like, you know, you're basically saying applaud. Either they laugh or they don't. If they don't, you've never felt lower in your life. And if they do, you've never felt higher.
It's funny. I've had mates, some of the smoothest, coolest, most confident people I know I've seen them MC a wedding and just go to fucking water. And it's like, oh my God, who is this guy? Like,
similarly, though, you've seen quiet people attempt stand-up and be incredible. And you go, I wouldn't have fucking picked that.
No, that's right. That's right. It's
because I think they want it so bad they just will themselves. I think I wasn't comfortable for 10 years. I don't.
Right. No, that sounds about right. So also, so I did 10 years in the UK where you can work 7 nights a week, right? Even if you're just doing tryout spots, 5 minutes for free to try and get into the game, you can do it 7 nights a week. Whereas they've got 70 to 75 million people in a space that's a landmass smaller than Victoria, where we've got 5 million people. So there's so many more people that want to be entertained. Plus, we call it the English language for a reason. It came from England. Right? They've got Shakespeare. They've got what they used to call music hall heritage. There's a whole history of spoken word entertainment in England that we don't have here. I don't know whether our weather's too good. We don't want to be stuck inside listening to people talk. We want to be outside. I'm not sure, but there's a massive cultural adjustment. And so when you say you weren't comfortable for 10 years, how many gigs would you have done? Even if you did one a week, that's only 50 gigs a year. Right? Whereas when I went to England, you could do 365 gigs a year.
Yeah.
I just forgot how many days there are in the year.
No,
And
well,
that's
it
why I
depends if
often
it's a
think,
leap year or not.
Well, yeah.
That's why I think Australia, the standard is so good, considering there's guys that we listen to in New York that are doing 5, 6 a night.
A night, yeah.
And that's, I mean, that's,
Well, I was
for
going
some
to. You can
people,
do that
that's
in
a-
England too, but I didn't want to be Mr. Big Shot. And I've never been Mr. Big Shot. I got to England. I started doing 5 minutes for free in all the different clubs.
Yep.
And
Before we get onto that,
Yeah.
how'd you get to England? Like, what was the process?
well, there's this
How
big
far in-
steel machine, right,
Yeah,
with
down, slow down.
wings.
Is it called a plane?
Yeah.
What's the deal with
Yeah.
aeroplane food?
No, my mate. So basically, I was 20, 21, and my various dickhead suburban mates. I'm a dickhead too. Were starting to do the old, travel around the world.
Yeah,
bit.
yep.
And so one mate survived in Japan for 6 months, and one mate survived in Canada for 2 years, and one mate survived in England for 8 months. And I thought, fuck, they're the same dickhead that I am.
Yeah.
To me, it was something you couldn't do. It was too big a ambition. What's going on? I got other anecdotes.
No, was that your water?
I don't know why. Why do I need water?
No, I was just making sure. No, I was looking forward.
Anyway, so one of those mates came back with a copy of.
It did seem like it all
Yeah.
happened at once.
One of those mates came back from overseas with a copy of Time Out magazine.
Yep.
So nowadays, Time Out is a great.
Sorry,
we
mate.
just
Yeah,
don't-
it's-
Don't
We
worry,
just
mate.
start packing up.
Yeah,
Don't worry. Yeah.
Mate, you keep going.
You
Just
fucking
unplug.
You asked me here.
Yeah. Oh, you should have seen our other guests
Yeah.
that we've walked out on.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Get on the YouTube and watch that. Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
That
No
was
wonder there's-
funny. I'd love to see your face there.
people are paying extra for this.
Yeah.
Is there another thing where you can pay extra to not fucking have access to it?
Oh, sometimes we just film chairs. Yeah.
So my mate brought a copy of Time Out magazine. Back then, the only Time Out magazine, which is a gig guide,
Yep.
was Time Out London, but they didn't say Time Out London because it was the only one on the planet.
Yep.
They've now branched out to fucking Time Out Tokyo, Time Out Berlin, Time Out Melbourne, right? But anyway, in the Gig Guide magazine, which was like as thick as a Woman's Weekly, the Melbourne Gig Guide in the Age on a Friday used to have about 2 comedy gigs mentioned.
Yeah.
Heaps of cover bands, 2 comedy gigs.
I remember looking
Captain
for
Spaulding.
it.
Yeah.
Bloody-
Captain Spaulding, Scat, Relax with Max, Dean and Carruthers. Oh, I got knocked back by chicks at all those gigs. Anyway, so I look at this gig guide in London. There's like 200 gigs in London alone, like in the equivalent of Collingwood or Brunswick or St Kilda or Prahran or Port Melbourne. Fucking gigs everywhere. And so he showed me this in Mount Waverley when he'd come back. I picked him up from the airport and I just thought, I've got to go there. And then I realised Dad was born there, so I had ability to get dual citizenship. And then started just climbing up the ladder.
And were you chatting to other comics in Australia about it?
Oh, yeah, but no one really believed me. Like Marty Sheargold often says that you can't believe there was no network like there is now.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm not saying I'm courageous or a hero or anything, and I never really made it properly
Do you
anyway.
march on Anzac Day?
Yeah, how's that connected?
I don't know.
Right.
Just hero.
Yeah,
Courageous.
all right. No. But meaning that I didn't know any different. So I just went over. I had a distant relative that lived in the equivalent of, if people are listening or watching this in Victoria, the equivalent of, say, like Healesville or something, right? But I needed to be in, like, the CBD. But I didn't know. And I just needed to get to England and have somewhere to stay. So I stayed with this distant relative. I had, like, a Jason Donovan haircut at the time and an Aussie accent. And so all the neighbours would find excuses to come around and visit. They called me, made a nickname, which was Neighbours. Right? So
And
because
Neighbours was massive.
massive back then, right? And also because out in the burbs, like a lot of those people who lived in the burbs never been to London, even though they're a 40-minute train trip away, right? So for Australia to come to them, let alone London to come to them,
Yeah.
I was like a celebrity just by my very existence. But I started doing 5 minutes for free at all these pubs, and if you're good, then they invite you 3 months later because there's a massive backlog because there's so many people trying to do it. To do another 5 to make sure it wasn't a fluke if it went well.
Yep.
If that goes well, you come back another 3 months later to do 10 minutes. And if that goes well, you then come back to do another 10 minutes. So they're really sussing you out.
Yeah.
And then eventually they book you for what was pretty much 20-minute sets.
Yep.
For money.
And
But
strict as strict.
yeah, strict
The
as
20?
strict, right?
Yep.
And but some of those clubs, you'd have a shit night. So you'd go back 3 months.
Yeah.
Right? And so almost like the old equalisers we used to have on those 7-part stereos in our lounge rooms.
Yep.
The various levels per club of your progress would be
Yeah.
at different levels of progress depending on whether you'd had a good 5-minute or a good 10-minute set.
Were there any?
If you had 2 shit ones in a row, that club just wiped you.
Because what was it? Yuck Yucks is Canada. What
That's
was
Canada.
Jongulars.
Jongulars.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
So was there
So
any under this one banner that you could sort of...
Jongulars is a Latin word for jester, and they grew from 3 clubs when I got there in the back end of 1992 to 20 clubs at the back end of 2002. So there was Southampton, Liverpool, Manchester, London, everywhere you can name the major cities of England, and then they branched out to Glasgow in Scotland and Cardiff in Wales and Dublin in Ireland, and then they started branching out to like European countries. So I was there for the best 10 years ever.
Yeah.
Comedy was already big, and then it just fucking exploded. Yeah. And I started getting laid.
Great.
Because I had an Aussie accent, right? And I was
You
a
were
funny
funny.
guy, and eventually when I'd climbed up to the top of the ladder, i.e. what they call the headline act, as we know,
Fuck yeah.
you're the main man. And also, the chicks know, if they're interested, that you're leaving the next morning. So they can factor that into whether they give you a kiss or not.
Yep.
Because it's not like it's a bloke that they work with who's going to be bringing flowers and hassling her at the photocopier after she had a drunken fumble the night before. You're gone.
Yeah.
And the
They know you're
comedian-
gone before they even say hello.
And the comedian does have... There's something about him.
Bit of status.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, you just entertained an entire room
Yeah.
with things that you reckon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's some stuff that I reckon.
Yep.
Please
did
laugh
you-
at everything I say. How the fuck do any of us do it? I don't know.
It is bizarre when you think about it. Yeah. Did you fall in love over there?
Yes,
Yeah.
my first ever girlfriend, which Lawrence Mooney always brings up, was a West Indian, i.e. black woman who was a model.
Dreadlocks?
No dreadlocks, shaven head. She was a model for Jean-Paul Gaultier.
Ooh.
And when I say I got laid, I'd gone a year because I was still doing open spots, so I couldn't trade off being a good comedian.
Yep.
Try out spots, 5 minutes. But I'd gone a year and hadn't had a touch. Hadn't touched the footy in a year, accent or not.
Yep.
And I remember thinking, am I gay? And I was in this pub and I'm looking around going, I'm going to look around at guys and see if I find them
if they'll
attractive.
move the
Maybe
needle.
I'm gay and move the needle, right? And so I'm looking around and I'm seeing, like you and fucking whatever. I'm just going, no, either they're not my type or I'm not gay.
Yeah.
But I was trying to be self-aware going, there's something missing here that I don't get. I've seen uglier blokes get girls.
Yeah.
I've seen worse blokes get girls. So what's the problem here? And then
Did you
as
still
I-
have the Jason Donovan at that
I
stage?
still had the Jason Donovan, but I thought that would work
I
anyway.
thought your
it didn't.
accent alone.
On accent alone, I
Should
know.
have tried maybe the Kylie Minogue.
Oh, yeah. The haircut.
Yeah.
Anyway, while I was scanning this bar, I was waiting for a mate who's going to meet me to have beers. My scanning took in the barmaid.
Yes.
And then me and the barmaid, because there was no one else in the pub, started chatting. And that was, I got off the mark
Great.
with that glorious girl.
Quick single.
Quick single. But then it went another 3 months, nothing. And I was trying and starting to self-loathe. And then there was one girl on the train. I was working at Hamley's, this toy shop, which is 5 stories. The Queen shop's there, Michael Jackson shop there. I tried to chat up Sade whilst dressed as a tin soldier. Because that was...
You had no heart though.
That's
the
right.
old Tin Man.
Yeah, there you go. That was the problem. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah. So I'm on the train. You know when you work in a normal day job, you don't realise that you get on your train station to go to work from the same entrance.
Yep.
So you're standing on the same part of the platform and you get on the same carriage, and basically that carriage from the 7:42 train is populated by exactly the same people.
Same people.
Exactly the same seats.
Yeah.
Including you every day.
I've never thought about it, but
Right. Well, anyway, I was doing that when I was coming home from this toy shop job in Regent Street in the centre of London, dressed as a toy soldier.
Maybe that's why you weren't
Maybe.
getting much action,
And there
mate.
was this redhead girl, I thought, giving me the fuck me eyes.
you couldn't change.
Well,
You didn't have to wear the
did it?
tint.
Didn't occur to me.
Like, I don't wear my suburban footballer shit home.
Right. Well, says you. Anyway, this redhead's giving me the fuck me eyes, and I'm thinking, have I got snot on my face, or have I got food on my shirt, or is there a good-looking bloke behind me? And day after day after day, I'd eliminate the other possibilities, and I had to then concede, I think she's giving me the fuck me eyes. So anyway, then it took about 3 more days before I convinced myself. If I get out of my seat and walk over to her seat, it's a silent train. Whatever I say is going to be heard by lots of people.
Yeah.
Whatever she says back is going to be heard by lots of people. I don't know if I want to risk it, right? This is someone who's standing on a stage in front of 500 people.
I know.
normally,
Yeah.
Right? Anyway, so she comes up to the nearest door to me when she goes to get off on one of these afternoons, evenings, leans over to my seat and goes, weak as piss. And the door's open and she gets off. And I go, now I'm getting mocked.
Yeah.
Now I'm getting mocked. So I get off at the next stop, which is about 3 stops before my stop, and I walk along the Thames River, which I thought was called the Thames, right?
Yeah,
at the end of Benny Hill and on the buses. Thames TV production.
Yes.
Right? The Thames. And I was living in Greenwich, so I thought that was called Greenwich. Anyway, and I'm walking along the Thames, and it's foggy as fuck, like you can hardly see a pea super, as they say, and I'm yelling at myself, going, "You fucking pussy. You fucking gaylord. Fuck me. Not only can you not fucking get laid or even get a conversation happening with a girl, now the fucking ones that are making it obvious they want you to talk to them are mocking you because you're too gutless to do so, right?" And then I come across this couple that have been previously pashing, obviously, who've pulled away from each other, who've heard me coming closer and closer to them and see that I'm by myself. Right, and I thought, oh, fuck, how low
Still dressed as Tin Man.
Still dressed as a Tin Man. How low can I go? Anyway, so the next week I'm at a pub and there's a barmaid who was black and tall and gorgeous, and I said to my mate, "Oh, God, she's beautiful." And he goes, "Mate, you won't fucking do anything about it. I bet you £50 you don't say a fucking word to her aside from ordering the drinks."
Yep.
Anyway, I told myself all week, this is enough. Fucking stop being a wuss.
Wouldn't you have just seen that redhead the next day?
Good point. No. I got on other carriages after that.
Oh, so you've really
ashamed.
fucked yourself. You're
No, I was
ashamed. Do you ever wonder where she is now?
Well, no, that's what I was about to say. So then a week later, I chat up the barmaid, separate barmaid. By the way, I don't know about you guys, but in Australia, don't we look at bar staff, in particular people serving you booze, as like gods that hold the gold?
Yes.
Right? And we treat them with respect. And, you know,
Do you reckon
I hold them above me, right? Because
Yeah.
they
Yes.
can give me access to alcohol.
Well, we talked about the comedian being able to pull girls that he potentially couldn't normally pull. I reckon bartenders have got a much easier way to get to that.
Yeah, well, because they can start conversations. They can start conversations that doesn't look like there's an ulterior motivation.
Yeah.
That's right.
And then maybe segue into something
And
more
they're giving
personal.
you what you want.
They're giving you what
And
you
you're
want.
finding out a lot about people because they're telling you their problems, telling you about this, telling you about that.
Well, I
So
quickly discovered in England the bar staff are treated like shit. They're paid like shit.
Nah.
And so if you're nice to them like we are normally,
Yeah.
they think you're being super nice.
Yeah.
When you're just trying to be basic respectful.
Yes.
Anyway, so trying to chat up a barmaid, I thought, what? Who am I? She's above my status.
Yeah.
Anyway, she goes, this is the biggest shock of my whole life. She goes, I was just telling my colleague here, because I said to her, hey, I've been talking to my mate, telling him how gorgeous you are, and he said, this is boring me to death. Tell her yourself. So I'm telling you, I never said, sort of got around flat out saying you're gorgeous.
Yeah.
And she goes, whoa, I was just telling this girl that I work with that I think you're gorgeous. And it was like, what? Stop the world spinning.
Yeah.
Stop the world spinning. I always thought that any girl that was interested in me had been talked into it against their wishes by my persistence.
Was there anything
Never occurred to me
better?
that someone might have thought I was cute.
Was there anything better when you found out a girl was interested?
No.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus,
well,
that's
anything
good.
scarier. Because now you're obliged to do something about it.
You've got to do something.
Yeah.
Oh, you've got to get me a little pecker out.
Yeah.
So I've got to talk to her.
Yeah,
Jesus.
well, I don't know about, again, YouTube or your viewers or listeners, but I remember so I'm 54. In the last 20 years, because of Facebook, there's been various women I knew in my teenage years that are now divorced, back on the scene, and they must think rather than go on an app and talk to total strangers, who from my back catalogue might still be around, who I know and trust already as a first cab off the rank back into the single scene setup, going, oh, g'day Matthew, what are you up to? And I go,
You're still dressed as that stupid Tin Man?
Yeah. Right? And they'd go, oh, what happened to that party? They'd specify about what happened at Johnny, Carey's 21st when we were chatting in the backyard and I put my hand on your leg and
Jesus.
I don't know, I shit myself. Right? And so there'd be there was a phase where there was 2 or 3 women from my past. I don't know whether they did fancy me at that party. Or whether they were trying to give me an easy in to helping them get back on the bike.
Well, I've got a theory about this, and we've discussed this before, that's why so many divorced people end up getting back with old partners.
Right.
Because I think in your brain, you see them how they used to be. You know what I mean?
Underage.
Not fat, not bald, not drug addicted.
Like you still see that girl at high school or the girl you met at uni.
Yep.
You see through everything else.
Yep.
And to you, and it's like you're that age again. It's like
Yeah.
an injection of youth.
It's a great. I believe it.
And you could say to your mates that didn't know her,
She was.
I'm going out with Jenny, and they're going, Jesus, mate, she's rank, and you're like, what? You don't see it.
No, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Rank.
They might not use that word, but
No. She's let herself go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, we haven't.
No.
We're as hot.
no.
We're as hot as we always were.
Jeez, we look good. Yeah. So, yeah.
So a big part of your life has been the St Kilda Footy Club.
Massive Saints fan. Yeah, and for the people watching and listening, so just to recap for 1 second before I move on, no. I'm going to sort of demean myself in a way, but so when I was 19, 20, I got pretty good pretty quick in the 4 or 5 pubs that there were in Melbourne. Then I went to England. Took me about a year and a half to start getting paid gigs.
Yep.
Then once that snowball rolls, if you're any good,
Rolls quick.
especially if you're an Aussie. So I didn't get gigs because I was an Aussie until I started getting good.
Yeah.
I thought I'd start getting gigs purely because I was an Aussie, and that would cover the 30% less skill I might have, and bridge the gap and fast track me. But fuck it, you've got to be funny no matter what you sound like.
Yeah.
But then when I was undoubtedly funny for money, that started rolling. So I had 10 years in the UK. Never had the guts to go to the Edinburgh Festival and do 1 hour on one topic because you have to risk like £50,000, just like a trade fair. So people say to me, so when did you first get promoted? You've probably heard this, to the comedy festival. And I go, you don't get promoted. It's not a reward for good club work in pubs.
It's a major risk.
It's a major financial risk, and anybody can do it.
Yep.
I mentioned the butcher. The local butcher can do a comedy festival show if you want to afford hiring the room, the fee to join the festival, paying to advertise so people know it's on.
And a month of hell.
But it's the first thing people go, do you do comedy festival? I said, well, yeah. It's not that big a feather in your cap.
Well, it is if you do well at it, but
It is,
it's effectively a trade fair. It's like going to the motor show or the boat show. You're going to the comedy show.
Yep.
And you're hoping that a TV or a radio network might, say that you're awesome. Like, say, Nick Cody is a recent, person who progressed from live clubs to big money breakfast radio. And it's because he put himself out there at the trade fair, the comedy festival.
Yeah.
So you're doing 20-minute spots, and I know there was always a big thing when you'd hear about the UK. They were so strict on your 20 because people were ducking around from one
so
to the
you're
other.
getting off one stage into a black cab, going to another stage, and then getting off that stage into a black cab, going to another stage.
And what are you getting paid to do the
I suppose it would have got up to
gig?
£300-400, which is $800 $1,000 a show
To do one spot.
Yeah. But
The headline, $800.
Yeah, dollars, 800 Australian dollars.
Well, but you can do a few of those in a night.
You can do 4 in a night, yeah.
Yeah, right.
And I was doing 4 in a night, and it was cash.
Yeah.
So all of us had a story at that stage in the 90s about getting into a cab, like the last cab of the night, with 4 lots of £400 in your pocket.
Yeah.
And you might have been smoking a joint after the last show or drinking throughout the shows or just generally getting messy because it's living the life.
Yeah.
And then you'd wake up in the morning with none of that money, because you'd left it in the cab or the girl you'd gone back somewhere with had maybe
rolled you.
Yeah. And so she should have if she did, So that was fantastic. But then I came back here and
it was 8 years you had roughly over there?
almost 10 years,
10 years.
And then when I came back here, there was a show called The Big Schmooze.
Just quickly.
Which the Comedy Channel
You
started.
come back, because I know like Johnny Katz came back from England, maybe 5-6 years ago.
Yep.
It's almost like he had to start again.
Yes.
Because is that
No one knows
how it works?
Yeah, because you're on the other side of the world, and if you're making a name for yourself, unless this was all pre-Netflix too, so unless you manage to get on some sort of platform and pre-YouTube that everyone can see anywhere, and then you're so good or you have such an interesting angle that it goes viral, you're only known by the people that are in that club that night. Yeah. And most of the time, if they're driving home, they don't remember your name. That Aussie guy was good.
They might remember your joke.
Yeah.
But then go, what was his fucking
Or the
name?
tall guy, or the fat guy, or the black guy.
Massive downer coming into and then.
Oh no, it wasn't
getting
a
back
massive.
into
So my
the
dad
circuit.
was very unwell and had been for a while, but it had got to the point where my brothers said probably should come back.
Yeah.
And fuck him, it took about 8 months to die. No, I thought he was like days away, but luckily he lasted for 8 more years, and so I got the last 8 years of my dad's life. Whereas I could have stayed and could have become bigger, but who knows?
Yeah.
But I was starting to get sick of living out of hotel rooms as well. It's pretty lonely.
It does sound great, doesn't it?
That sounds great.
Traveling.
It is great. But
in your early 20s, great.
Yeah.
But you're still
in a hotel room all the time.
Were you missing your family?
Oh, yeah, massively.
Yeah.
There was another guy, Brendan Burns, that won the Perrier Award, which is
Yeah.
the biggest award in comedy at the Edinburgh Festival. And he always said that he didn't want to go back. He loved England. It was a superior lifestyle for him.
Yeah.
I was burdened by having heaps of mates and heaps of family that I loved and missed. And it was always nagging at me. But anyway, I came back here and did a bit of TV, a bit of Good News Week, bit of Spicks and Specs.
SEN?
SEN radio, which was, niche sport, white male AM
Yeah, but that
audience.
was the very first. You were the very first.
Yeah,
SEN,
me, Dermot Brereton, the Hawthorn legend, and Anthony Hudson, the commentator.
It was a great show.
Yeah, well, thank you.
And-
we're the biggest ratings they've ever had to this day.
And that's back when it was real sports and comedy. It's obviously
Yeah.
gone sports
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. But anyway, so I've had this like middle level career, but no one really knows who I am. Probably including, unfortunately, your viewers and listeners.
I reckon there'd be a few who do. I remember, my brother, he's got the DVD of I'm so Australian.
I'm so Australian, I see nothing wrong with all white men singing all black music to an all white audience. It's just human nature.
Right, well, so what happened there that was in 2008 or 9. I'd not really had any TV or radio or writing work for too long and was thinking, what I used to always do is just go back to England for a year or two and hit the ground running and be working 5 nights a week again. And again, that would kill off whatever momentum I'd created here in the interim.
Yeah.
But I remember sitting in a room, I don't know if you two have done this, and as a creative experiment, going, right, no TV, no radio, no internet, I'm getting a pen and a paper and I'm putting it on the coffee table in front of the couch.
Yeah.
And from 9 a.m. till 5 p.m. all this week, I'm just thinking of some new form or new angle on comedy that might make me money.
Great.
And either not send me back to England or not make me consider a fucking, God forbid, day job.
Yeah.
Right.
And where's your, love life at this stage? Where are you living?
Oh,
What are you
I
doing?
was living in an apartment in Paran. I think I had a girlfriend on the go.
Yep.
I had a bit of money saved up because I'd done all right. So when I first
Early 30s or something?
Yeah, early 30s. When I came back in 2000, the Comedy Channel was on Foxtel. Foxtel didn't have AFL. Basically, no one was watching it.
Yep.
They had these packages, and the highest paid package, they decided we need some extra oomph, some bang for the buck. We're going to do our own Tonight Show. They start filming this Tonight Show at Channel 7 studio, so it looked and sounded like a big money, proper, commercial network TV Tonight Show. And I got the gig as the host. So at the time, it was pre-Rove and post-Vizard. So when Pink was coming through, or the Cause were coming through, or Green Day were coming through,
Hardy.
they didn't know. And somehow or other, we had these crowd wranglers, these two twin Greek girls that were amazing, that would get 300 people in to see this show that no one had heard of, hosted by a bloke no one had heard of. And so when you'd have all these big celebrities, and I'd be interviewing one-on-one in front of a live audience in a Channel 7 studio.
Yeah.
Because Foxtel was hiring that. They didn't know that they weren't appearing on a well-known, regular, long-term Tonight Show.
They thought that this was going to sell out the stadium.
Yeah, they thought it was going to sell out the stadium. And, basically me and my mum were the only people watching. It's weird because I've since shown people clips and they've gone, how did you doctor that? Is this AI or something?
Yeah.
Like, how did you put yourself in the host seat? I go, no, that really happened. Welcome to touch my hand while you're talking. Go on.
I played Sigrid Thornton's best friend.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've
Continue.
been smoking, haven't you?
Not at all.
Anyway.
I will be afterwards.
I played Sigrid.
Yes.
Right, It's just Foxtel didn't have AFL yet. And also, if you wanted to see this Tonight Show, you had to pay for the top package, right? Which was just not going to give you any value for money anyway. We didn't have ratings, so we didn't know whether we were doing well or not. There was no such thing as Foxtel ratings back then. I'm not sure if there still is. But anyway, I've had this weird... But the point is, I've made a living out of it from 21 years old to 54 years old.
It's amazing.
Without having to do a fucking day job.
Yeah.
And still I'm somehow a nobody, which I don't mind. I went to the footy with Hughesy once. I'm St Kilda. He's Carlton. And he got, I would say hassled, he got spoken to by every single person that set eyes on him. And they were all being kind and nice and friendly, but I wondered how he could breathe.
He loves that though, I think.
Oh, he loves it. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I didn't not love it, but I remember thinking, I might as well just come. I wasn't unhappy with any of the situation, but I observed quite quickly I might as well have come to the footy by myself.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I don't get to talk to Hughesy about the game or
No, that's
our
right.
girlfriends or any other topic or anything at all because then he'd get a crowd around him when you're going for a piss or when you're going for a beer, and then people would go, "What's that crowd for?" and then they'd see that Husey was in it. So it was like an endless spiral of hurricane
And they
growth.
tell
of
their
human-
friends, and they tell their friends.
In
and
the
they
words of
tell
Soul Asylum, nothing attracts a crowd like a crowd.
Well, there you go, yeah. And I had a celebrity girlfriend for a while too, and
Can we name her?
no, she would
You seem obsessed with his love life, haven't you?
yeah, no, but she
Well,
would.
I just like hearing other
Maybe back
people.
it
No,
up
but
a
she
bit.
was people who were doing better than me.
No. Well, was. And now you're doing better than me. I'm on your show, not vice versa.
Yeah, that's right.
But this celebrity girlfriend would say to them, just say you come up and go, oh, Jenny, and she'd go, oh, g'day, what's your name? And you'd go, Tom, and she'd go, pleased to meet you, Tom, and then just go. Right?
Yeah, that's good.
But they were happy because she'd acknowledged their interest,
Yeah.
acknowledged their name,
Yep.
and they wouldn't even think. I reckon it would be like an hour later when they'd go, I think she just snubbed me. She didn't
Yes.
snub them.
Yeah.
No,
Acknowledged
she's
their interest.
acknowledged.
Yeah.
Introduced herself,
Yes.
repeated their name, and left.
Because we're at the level, and I wouldn't even call it fame, or I guess it's a level
I
of
went and
fame.
saw
It's
your
just
festival show. It was packed.
Extremely low. We only did three shows.
We go, that's pretty good. And then you
I
go,
did one show.
We go, yes, but you
much
you
bigger
sold that
venue.
out.
Whereas
Saturday
we
afternoon fever.
have so few followers that we feel like. I'll give you an example. Saturday night, a guy was just chatting with me. I gave him a fucking lift home. And that's not.
You live 2 hours away.
And
That's funny.
He's a Patreon. He's a Patreon.
Well, he said he was.
No,
he
He
is.
said he was 18 too.
Yeah. And I won't say your name, but
Right.
hope you're getting some fucking found your bats.
He's
So,
texted me. They've come back. He's
the bats
texted
are
me.
going
He's come
bullshit.
back. So, yeah.
Well, someone did a Davey Warner on him.
No. This is
The proper bats.
proper bats,
not
yeah.
cricket bats.
No. I thought I was going back to see his cricket bat
And
collection.
Tom hates cricket.
but I hate cricket. I wasn't that excited about the cricket bats. I was even less excited when I found out they were fucking actual bats. They're up in
Right.
trees and stuff. But
Right.
went back and there were no bats. But anyway, so yes, so we feel that we'll talk to them. If someone comes up to us, we'll talk for an hour.
Yeah.
But
And I get
you must
photos
get
with
to the
them
point.
to prove it. People are
You want a
listening.
photo?
Yeah.
They're like, no,
No,
all right.
not really.
Let's get
Yeah.
one.
Let's get one.
But you must get to the point where you see the NBA guy. It's just head down.
Yeah.
Your buddy Franklin, it's
Yeah.
head down. And,
Yeah.
But Hughesy still acknowledging everyone.
Oh, yeah, he loves it. And I'm not saying it's not to be loved. Maybe I would love it too.
Yep.
And I wasn't unhappy. It's just an observation that from getting out of his car to getting back into his car, he doesn't have a moment to himself.
Yeah.
Or, in my case, to my mate. Either that or St Kilda was shitting on Carlton that day and he was happy not to talk to me.
Yeah. So did you ever get to a point, what was probably the height, and we'll get back to the I'm So Australian thing,
Oh,
got
yeah.
a bit off track. What was the height of being famous, did you want that, or you just wanted to
I never
get
got
good
famous.
Well,
Where's the end was pretty big.
did you want that?
No,
Or
I
did
didn't
you just want to get great at stand-up?
I wanted to try and, I think we all want to try and get famous because famous equals a bigger audience.
Yes.
And so you're telling your funny stories. The louder the laugh
Yeah.
and the longer the laugh, the bigger the adrenaline rush. And so if getting, and so some people will say to me, oh yeah, Hughesy only gets big crowds because he's famous. And I go, yeah, how do you reckon he got famous?
Yes.
Yeah.
He got famous by being brilliant
Yeah.
and even more brilliant over a long period of time. So he becomes a trusted brand.
I believe
right?
that may have changed now with social media. That there's people that are getting big audiences through somehow doing something on.
Well, they'll do a 30-second funny thing in their bedroom at home.
Yep.
Then suddenly they've got 500,000 followers. Then suddenly they think I should do live shows to capitalise upon this, but they can't do live shows because it's a whole separate skill.
It's a completely
That
different
said,
thing.
those of us who can do live shows, most of us haven't perfected how to do 30 seconds that grabs people's attention.
Exactly.
So it's almost like two separate industries.
Yeah.
When and if you can merge one into the other from either direction
Yep.
is when you're really fucking laughing.
Yeah.
And so that's what I tried to do in 2008 with this idea, I'm So Australian. And so there was Australia. So when I was a kid, there was all these singles, comedy spoken word singles, and they'd play snippets of those singles, not music, just spoken word comedy, in between songs in summer. Right?
Yep.
So you'd have Australiana by this guy Ostentatious.
Yep.
And it was just a series of sort of pun lines, like how much can a koala bear? Or
Yeah.
I'll go to the party if dingo's to the party. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, he said koala, he said dingo, but in funny ways, right? And it was a massive #1 hit nationally. And they'd play a couple of those lines between songs as you were driving to a beachside resort with your mates in summer or whatever.
Yeah.
So I thought, maybe I could try that. Then there was a guy called George Smelovich did a spoken word single called "I'm So Tough." I'm so tough. My bull mastiff walks me, right? Or I'm so tough. I drink cordial straight out of the bottle, or whatever, right?
Yeah, I remember. I get my wife to iron my shirts while I'm wearing it.
Yeah, that's right.
Stuff like that. Yeah, it was
That's
great.
how tough I am. Yeah. So I thought, why don't I combine the two and say I'm so Australian, and then I came up with about 200 lines. I'm so Australian. I put Vegemite on both sides of the toast. That way, if it falls on the kitchen floor, I don't care which way it lands.
Yeah,
right?
great.
Yeah.
Bang,
Or
bang, great
I'm so
joke.
Australian. I thought Mardi Gras was Glenn McGrath's brother.
Yeah,
right?
great.
Blah blah blah.
I am so Australian. If a massive wall of bushfire flame is headed toward my property, I'll stand on the roof in my jammies with a hose in my hand and consider it a fair fight. Back after I put my thumb over the nozzle.
And so then I went to the Comics Lounge in North Melbourne and filmed myself with like a clipboard. Said, I'm going to run for Prime Minister. I'm going to run for Prime Minister. This is my list of policies that you might or might not want to vote for. Okay.
Yep.
Forget about, Kevin 07. Forget about Gough Whitlam saying, it's time. My slogan that's going to be bumper stickers and coffee cups is, I'm so Australian, right?
Yep.
And you're going
And
to vote
you were
for me.
wearing the
Australian flag shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, and so if they didn't laugh, I'd do a big comedy cross. Which would get a laugh.
Yep.
And if they did laugh, I'd do a big comedy tick.
Yep.
Which would get a laugh on top of the laugh. And so I whittled it down to the 30 best ones.
I am so Australian and I've been deliberately blocking my dunny in the hope that one day I'll meet Kenny.
Sent it to a bloke I knew at Sony Music. The absolute boss of Sony Music had just been on a long lunch with the guy that I knew. He showed it to him when they returned to the office. That was a Friday. Saturday morning, this guy was a New South Wales person into rugby, went to his local rugby club and was running the one-liners by his mates.
Yep.
All got big laughs, and within 2 weeks I had a 20 grand deal, and they said, let's film a DVD. And I went, 90 minutes? And they went, yeah, we'll give you 3 months. So I went, mate, I've got like 3 minutes. That's the point of it.
Fuck.
So if you bought the DVD,
Because it's cut in with it's cut in with cartoons,
animation,
and,
87 minutes of shit, and 3 minutes are awesome, but they're thinly spread throughout.
I'm so Australian, I want to do bongs with Chappelle Corby. I'm so Australian, I reckon her sister has been incorrectly named. Mercedes, more like Datsun 180B to me.
Yeah.
But so what's the process with that? Because I know what it's like if you're coming up to a festival and you don't have enough material. Are you stressing? Are you peeking out?
Oh, yeah, I was stressing and peeking out, yeah. Because, it takes you a year to come up with an hour's worth of stuff, if not 5 years.
And did it have to be the Australian themed?
Yes.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
That's
Anyway.
tough.
At least you had something to write to, but you're like, you got to film. So how much? You had 2 months
The
or
top
something.
30, if I say so myself, were awesome.
Oh, they were great.
You could Google it, but, the other
We'll
87
cut a few.
minutes...
I'll cut a few into the thing.
Well, feel free.
Yeah.
I am so Australian, I reckon one day Ian Thorpe's going to meet a nice girl and get married.
So that was a big moment for me. That I got reasonably big for maybe 6 months. Then I wrote a book about my childhood, normal suburban boy's childhood. That was in 2000 when I came back from England to try and launch myself here.
Yep.
And then I've now done...
What's that called?
Saturday Afternoon Fever.
There we go. Give it a plug.
A play on the famous phrase Saturday Night Fever, the film.
Some parts of my childhood I'll never forget. I was 10 when I saw a grown man fly. It was like a superhero had arrived in the suburbs. But what goes up?
Hi Matthew, it's Mum. Now, we're all okay. There's some sad news I thought you'd want to hear. Trevor Barker died in his sleep last night. Bye.
Sometimes when you're a kid you can't wait to grow up. Sometimes when you're an adult you wish you hadn't.
Former AFL star Trevor Barker.
Trevor Barker
Trevor Banter
died in his sleep this morning at the age of just 39.
Charlie Bucket can keep his golden ticket. I became a winner in my own way. That packet of footy cards was on a list of firsts I'll never forget.
And then I've since done a stage adaptation, like a theatrical version of the book, as a one-man, 1 hour show, 5 times over what is now 25 years.
Yeah.
And the people that love that. And I thought there might be one more show in this most recent comedy festival in it. And I booked a 500-seater. And I thought maybe I'll probably sell 35 tickets and I'll quietly refund them. No one will know. And sold all 500. So I thought that was going to be my last show ever, if anybody cares either way. But I was very good that day, and the audience loved it. And so now I'm thinking, what am I doing? Why am I cutting my own throat?
And it was a buzz.
It was a buzz.
Yeah.
And also, not many people, as you were saying before, you're outnumbered when you're up on stage. There's you versus 500 people. You're telling them that your thoughts or your perspective on life is more interesting than 500 people's thoughts combined. Again, I don't know how comedy ever happened.
Well, one of the most popular things is nostalgia. And it's nostalgia.
Well, I'm trading on that. Yeah. Because I wrote one good thing 25 years ago and I've yet to write anything better.
But everyone there...
but I'll take it.
Yeah.
But also, it's enjoyable and it's a great... You've got the podcast as well that you do with Mooney.
I had another little renaissance with Lawrence Mooney, who you had on recently, who's absolutely brilliant. And we did a podcast of the book. And so I read the book out.
Yep. It was great.
And it's great. The book basically, it basically covers all of our firsts. So your first kiss, your first bike, your first part-time job, your first full-time job, your first route.
Your first West Indian girlfriend.
Your first West Indian girlfriend, your first fight, first time you get sacked from a relationship, first time you get sacked from a job, first car, all those, I suppose, landmark moments in all of our lives. And luckily for me, all of my firsts were just disastrous.
Yeah.
None of them
comedy
succeeded.
gold.
Yeah. No one wants to hear about the guy that kicked 12 goals.
No.
That's one thing.
Or the guy that got the girl.
Yeah.
You want to have fucked up in a major way. Yeah. So most of the people can go, oh, yeah, that makes me feel less bad about how I fucked up my first job or my first route or my first fight or my first beer or my first drug.
Yep.
Self-deprecation. I love it.
Well, so I brought up in Glen Waverley.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Mooney's brought up in Bayswater, which is way further out in the burbs than Glen Waverley. So I would read bits of my book, and he would tell me about the time he got punched up by a bouncer in a nightclub.
Yeah,
or the time a girl on the train looked at him and he was too stupid or gutless to talk to her. Or the part-time job that he got sacked from, or, the shit car that he had to try and drive where you've got to, force the back window down and climb in.
Yeah.
And then over the front seat. All those little idiosyncrasies when you're too pissed to go to get the fish and chips and one of your mates goes, give me the keys, and they come back in and go, what the fuck how do I start this thing? Oh, right, we've got to hit the clutch 4 times, then elbow the right window twice, then headbutt the steering wheel, then make sure the radio's on. It won't start if the radio's not on first. You go, what? But I can't turn the radio on.
Yeah.
That's like
how many episodes did you do of that?
We did 55 half-hour episodes.
Wow.
And then the book finished. But that's the best thing I've ever done.
Oh, it's amazing.
People reckon it's the best thing Mooney's ever done. We just had a good connection immediately. We know each other like we all know each other, but somehow it really did click well.
Yes, you can't force chemistry.
No, well, that's what a couple of radio people that don't work in radio anymore were contacting us going, how come this just doesn't transfer directly to commercial radio? Well, first of all, Mooney got sacked for Triple M, right? So that doesn't help. And secondly, I've never been employed by commercial radio. Well, SEN AM Sports Centric, I did with them, but that's not FM commercial, where you've got to talk about all topics, not just footy. But they were saying, fuck, we've spent millions over the years trying to force combinations together
it does not
that
work.
people would like on the radio, and you two have just done this by accident. I went, well, you know my number, But unfortunately, they're all retired. So I need someone who's still employed in the industry. Yeah. But even if that never happens, which it won't now, because the heat's gone off it. But that was amazing to know that I was matching Mooney for in a battle of wits. Who'd been doing it for
own podcast? I mean, obviously you're.
Well, no, I don't want to do. I didn't want. I never. Different people asked me, like all of us, to do different podcasts. But I thought I don't want to be talking to nobody.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be embarrassing. Yeah. But luckily, because I piggybacked on Mooney's fame and skills and popularity, I suppose a bit like the Charlie Clausen that works with Will Anderson.
Yep.
You can sometimes be the sidekick that is in the slipstream of the other person's progress.
And you complement each other. It's not,
Or we hang shit on each other.
Or
But
you hang
I know what you
shit
mean.
on each other.
Yeah.
It's
And Mooney being up in
great.
Sydney, it's just too hard now.
Well, yeah. Well, and also we've got nothing else to say. We were reading.
You're going to have to write another book, mate.
The book finished. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I did get up to hijinks in the UK whilst climbing up the comedy ladder. But I also noticed, and this is partly why I don't really do it anymore, is when I started in England in particular, I was like, let's say there's a ladder and there's 4 guys climbing the same ladder at the same time.
Yep.
For you to get good, you've almost got to climb over one of them, right? And then over the next one. And then suddenly you're at the top.
Yep.
What I didn't realise is 15 years later, you start feeling people tugging at your slacks, right, from below you on the ladder, and you feel them climbing you.
That Matt Hardy's a cunt.
Right. So there's better acts, and they're younger and they're hungrier, you know, and they're more in touch with what's happening now than you were 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And so around about that time, me and my ex had our first kid. She's a lawyer, so a more consistent and healthier income. I became the stay-at-home parent, started running Yarraville Club, another 500-seater, which became very successful for a decade.
Yep.
COVID kind of killed it off, really. But I just stayed in the
you
game.
Could start that up again now, couldn't you?
I think so. They're running there. It's a bit more. The lineups aren't as strong.
Yeah, well, I was basically bringing superstars out of
You had
retirement.
like Effie.
Yeah, I had Effie, Doug Anthony All-Stars, Michael Winslow from the Police Academy movies. Yeah. So I was going real big.
I'm with him at the lounge once.
Yeah, he's brilliant.
Yeah. Was his wife there?
No, he's had about 5 wives.
Oh, because his wife was there, just following him around,
Yeah.
wouldn't let him out of her sight. It was quite confronting. Like you couldn't even talk to him.
Yeah.
And she'd be like,
Because he was doing all the sounds.
Well, he had about 5 wives, and I think he's paying them all off endlessly forever.
Yeah, there's a reason she's following her around.
Yeah. She wants to make...
Maybe she wouldn't. She wants to break up with him so she can get the cut.
Get the kish cash cosh.
Yeah. I don't know.
But
Anyway.
well, so you're going to get back into stand-up, basically.
Well, I don't know. I just asked you two if I can come and do five minutes for free at your local
What about
gigs.
the Knot?
Yeah,
what about
I'll
the
do
Knot?
that.
We've got Jim Owen and Chris Wainhouse next.
Jesus, they're both brilliant.
Yeah, well,
I'll
I'll
have a go.
MC. I'll do a bit
I'm
up top.
doing one down in Sorrento with Mooney coming up soon that I run.
Oh, you run that one?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Spasmodically. It's not... it's sort of dropped off a bit, but we've got another one coming up with Mooney next school holiday. So
well, I can't do school holidays because I'm with my kids and I'll be in Japan because I missed a big shot. But I'm not.
Do you want the gigs or not?
Yeah.
Yeah, you sound like...
That's the other part of the problem.
Yeah.
No, the other part of the problem is, anyway, the other person I need to plan my school holidays with doesn't necessarily always give me advance notice of what they think my dates are.
Yeah.
And so that kind of...
we'll throw some out, and if you cancel last minute, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and we'll call you a cunt.
I don't know how you're going to let the audiences down when you... They realise that the person they weren't coming to see won't be here.
I think I'll be okay.
Don't we joke and have a bit of a laugh about where people's careers go, but to be able to do something you love from 21 to 54, still be doing it.
It's an achievement.
Created, Saturday afternoon fever to go to the UK to do something like that when no one was really doing it.
Yeah.
Like you got to look back and go.
I'm pretty proud of myself.
You've lived a great life. You're proud.
Yeah, the main thing is I avoided having a real job and having to answer to a boss.
Yes.
And having to suck shit.
Yeah.
Yes.
For 30 years.
Yeah.
Admittedly, my mates who did that are now way more loaded than me because if you choose my path, you're going to get by and make a living, but you're not going to be massively wealthy. Whereas
you're not going to be as. Are they going to be as fulfilled though?
Well, that's the constant question, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't speak for them. They seem reasonably fulfilled in their fucking McMansions.
Yeah, but
dying
they're
inside
pretty hollow. Pretty hollow.
Yeah.
So
I'd give it up for 1 minute on stage.
Well, my middle brother once said to me, because I'd be ringing up from England, absolutely euphoric about some reason or other, some exciting thing I'd just done, and then I'd ring a month later and be like, ready to jump off a bridge. And my brother said, fucking hell, the extremities.
Oh, it is.
The extremes that you have to live within. He said, I never wanted to be a Wimbledon champion. I never wanted to be Olympic swimmer. I never wanted to be a rock and roll star. So he goes, on one hand, I've missed out on the thrills that even touching those ambitions might provide.
Yep.
But on the other hand, I don't have anywhere near the lows. What goes up must come down theory. So he goes, I'll almost take it. I'll almost take a general neutral existence rather than massive highs and massive lows.
Yeah.
But some of those, they might follow sport. Because for some people, I mean, you see it. I went to the Collingwood Carlton Friday night, and I barracked for the Pies, but I'm not heartbroken like I once was if we lose a game.
Yeah.
But there's people there that, that's their comedy. That's their
ruins or makes their weekend.
Yes.
They are gutted.
Well, no, that's like me with the Saints.
Yeah,
I'm 54, and a bunch of 22-year-olds who don't know I exist set the mood for my next 7 days.
Yeah.
By winning, I feel great.
It's like Leonardo DiCaprio.
In what way?
A bunch of 22-year-olds set his mood for how he feels. Yeah.
So you So you still feel that way around the Saints?
Yeah, devastated.
Every game?
Yeah, I take it as a personal slight.
Do you think that will end? And it's funny because I felt that way up to 2010.
And then they won a flag in your lifetime? I hope so. I'd love to find out. I'd love to find out.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a personality to being so shit for so long.
Oh, 100%.
Like the consistency of St Kilda to win one premiership by 1 point. And never before or since.
St Kilda fans have there's something about them.
Some masochism.
The dog fans used to have it, and I don't think they've got it anymore.
Well, I think I'm a loyal friend. I mean, that's how we just started this discussion.
Yep.
I think that St Kilda's Latin motto is Fortius Quo Fidelius, which means strength through loyalty. And I do think there's something that we get, Saints supporters, in being so supportive for so long of, a situation that is shit.
Yeah.
We haven't bailed out on them. We haven't jumped ship.
You can't question your loyalty.
No.
Cannot question your loyalty.
And we might not know what to do with ourselves when and if the Holy Grail is achieved.
What will you do?
Well, I'd be pissed probably for the rest of my life.
What about that Matt Hardy?
Yeah,
I haven't seen him for a few years.
Wake up with a bad tattoo.
We're getting right off track now, but like, for example, I don't want to bring back bad memories, but the Geelong one, which you wouldn't have known until the last 30 seconds that you weren't going to win that.
No. 2009.
Were you there?
Well, no, I was there. I flew back. So I was in England in 97 when we played Adelaide. I flew back not knowing I'd have a ticket upon arrival, but had to take the risk.
Yep.
And paying top dollar because, I had about 2 days' notice to book the flight. Then I flew back for 2009, went back to England again. Then I flew back for 2010. I had to cancel work I had in England because I didn't expect the draw to occur and there'd be another week that I needed to be here.
That drawn game was one of the most electrifying
Oh, it was incredible.
games.
2009 was incredible. But I'll tell you one weird thing is at the start of the 2009 grand final, right, St Kilda line up man for man before the first bounce against all their respective Geelong opponents. And me and my brother and a couple of mates that have been going to the same, Saints losses for 30 years each, all look at each other with no ulterior thoughts and went, how fucking big are Geelong? Like physically.
Yeah.
Right? They were physically fucking
Like
giants.
Chapman, and they just had big guys.
Rook,
yeah.
all of them. Hawkins.
Bartell, they were just big boys.
Brad
weren't
Otten's massive men,
Oh,
right?
Otten's is huge.
And then a few years later, it turns out that Essendon have this guy called Stephen Dank. And they're coached by Bomber Thompson.
Yeah.
Geelong used to be coached by Bomber Thompson.
Yeah.
And they had a guy called Stephen Dank. And I thought, don't tell me 5 years later or 10 years later that the Cats, I'm not saying they were on the gas, but I'd hate to think they might have been. But Jesus Christ, those players were twice the physical size, man for man, of the Saints.
If they were, it was probably worth 8 points at least.
Exactly.
Yep.
So at least they got what they wanted.
And one of them was after the siren.
Yeah,
so
and it's only alleged anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, and Tom Hawkins hit the post.
Yeah.
No goal line technology back then anyway.
And clearly hit the post.
Yeah.
Like it
like deflected.
The post was shaking.
Damn it. Anyway.
Yeah.
Well, the only thing, and I do have a soft spot, Stevie Milne listens and we've caught up with him quite a bit.
Milne, what a legend.
I would, for him, how different his life would be if that ball bounced up and he kicked the goal. And you think of other guys like that are forgotten.
Yep.
But it just would have changed their life. And they're no better person, they're no better footballer, but a fucking bounce of the ball has changed their life. And that's not everyone can. It's just. Yeah.
And the amount of times all of us have watched that from so many angles, going, could he have got to it?
Yeah, you go, could he have got dive on it or something? But then
it's just too far away.
Can you imagine? I've run towards a boundary line in a local footy game where there's been 8 people fucking abusing it. Can you imagine that sea of fucking noise he would have been hearing?
When I was sat sort of diagonally behind the goals at the end where Goddard took that screamer.
Yeah.
And then kicked the goal.
What a mark.
Right? And then Hayes kicked longer than he'd ever... He'd never kicked that far in his life before, but he pulled it out of his arse. And so when Goddard was about 20 foot back from that pack that he took the screamer on, and I saw this muscle memory twitch his body. So again, Hayes kicked it. Aside from the goal that Hayes kicked, Lenny Hayes, he kicked it to that pack. Right?
Yep.
And I saw Goddard. So I was behind Goddard. Goddard was behind the pack. The pack was behind the guy kicking it, right?
Yep.
And so the ball's just started its arc toward the pack, and I see Goddard do this twitch, I think, where all the mathematics added up.
Yep.
And the physics.
I've got that.
Yeah.
This is going to work out.
This is good. If I start running at that pack now, I'm going to.
Fuck.
Right? I've never seen that twitch before. And so it's giving me goosebumps just thinking about it. And so I got to like ride his decision, ride the moment when it all occurred to him, this is set up for me.
Yeah.
He took it, he kicked it, and I said to myself out loud, because I was sitting by myself, I could only get one ticket for that game. I said to myself, we fucking won this, and started bawling sobbing, bawling my eyes out. Like, you know, like someone had just died that you love. And then I had a reason to because we didn't win it.
Well, that's the one positive is that he's not a premiership player because he's a cunt. I'm dead serious. I did a gig,
Brendan Goddard.
I did a gig with him.
I don't want any part of this.
He treated me like shit. And you know when someone does something and you want to hate him, and I just see him now and I hear things and he's. Milne, I would have given you 2 premiership medallions.
I've never really heard Tommy. Well, I have heard you. I know, but there's not many. There's not many people you sort of
in front of a room full of people. He humiliated me. He was not a fan.
Let's go get him.
Yeah.
Let's steal his lolly snakes.
We'll take a few pretzels. They were pretzels, weren't they?
Oh, yeah, might have been, yeah.
Yeah, they're little things you start looking at. I know. And if that went through, that would have been the new Jezelenko.
A million.
Yeah. No. If they win that game,
that's right. That's right. Yeah, the currency. Yeah, the currency of the mark.
But instead, it's sort of still an amazing mark.
Over the past 2 or 3 weeks, with Jamie Elliott's screamer in the Anzac Day game, and with Bailey Fritsch's dribble kick.
Yeah.
Over the past 2 or 3 weeks, I reckon there's been other goals and marks that would have definitely been goal or mark of the year.
Oh, yep.
But they've been buried by these 2 separate examples that are just head and shoulders above anything we've seen before.
Yeah.
I leapt out of my seat watching that Bailey Fritsch goal.
Yeah.
Like physically got me standing up and yelling.
So you're
I'm not even a Melbourne fan.
No, massive footy
Love
nuffy
footy.
though. Love it.
It's the best entertainment ever.
Yeah.
And in England for 10 years, no one's ever heard of it. So basically I realised, 90% of my conversation is about footy.
Yeah.
But this country does not know it exists.
Yeah.
You have to suddenly get more interesting.
If you meet someone, they're not into footy. It's almost like...
Well, some people have asked me, what are you into it for? And I go, if you go and see Paul Kelly, and there's an interval, you're going to see Paul Kelly playing with his band for maybe 3 hours. You go and see a Marvel movie, you're there for maybe 2 hours plus. It's escapism.
Yeah.
It's an unscripted form of entertainment.
Yeah.
And sometimes that movie or that game is shit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sometimes that band or that game is shit.
But
other times you talk about it forever and go, that was one of the best concerts I ever saw or one of the best games I ever saw.
Yeah.
So it's just another form of escaping your real life.
True.
And my dad used to call it the Colosseum complex, where you just go to yell and scream and bay for blood because you can't do that in the kitchen with your wife.
Yeah.
Or at work with your boss.
And I will argue black and blue that a good game of footy is better than a good game of anything else in any other game. Like NBA, it's great sport, but it's all sort of the same. You're sort of seeing a very similar stuff.
Up and down.
Yeah, but footy, anything. There's almost...
And there's new heroes sort of
even
made.
now you're saying,
Every
I've
game.
never seen that before. Whereas I reckon in NBA, it's all been done.
And, the front bar had Mark McGough on the other day, who got best on ground, I think, on debut.
He was 17.
Yeah, on the Anzac Day game. And so we'll all know him forever for 1 3-hour period in his life.
Yep.
Went on to one of the great local footy careers. Just absolutely dominated.
Where'd he play?
He was out in the northern comps, like a Montmorency or something like that. Basically got 40 possessions every game for 10 years. Because he was a magnet. He was a local footballer. Big, get in.
And didn't have a footballer's body, really.
No.
Just a bit of it,
That's why I pissed down that day, that Anzac Day.
Yeah.
Oh, he's a mud runner.
He's a mud runner.
Yep. So, we'll maybe finishing up. You reckon?
It's been bloody good.
What do you got coming up? Like, apart from 5 minutes here and
nothing.
No, but like you must have some you got.
I know. So what I'm now doing, I'm now producing, which means financing.
Yeah.
And or promoting other talent.
Great.
So I found a poet, believe it or not. I know fuck all about poetry.
Yep.
But there's a guy. He lives in Thornbury. He's my age-ish. He's doing some kind of. He says it doesn't classify as poetry. It doesn't rhyme. Apparently, rhyming poetry is limericks.
Word?
What's that?
Spoken word.
Spoken word, kind of, but not stand up, and not necessarily meant to be funny. But somehow or other, touches me.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I suppose like song lyrics can. But anyway, I think he could become something. And so I've put $5,000 into hiring a venue, promoting him, paying a couple of support poet acts.
Yep.
And seeing if...
Support
he's got,
poet.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But no, but the guy's got like...
Do they do a sound check?
He's had 1 million likes on TikTok. Most of them are from America.
Yeah.
Even though he's doing it from his lounge room in Thornbury.
Yep.
Suburban Melbourne. And somehow or other it's moved me emotionally.
Amazing.
I feel like I'm coming out of the closet.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
But I'm going to give it a
all
go.
those years ago when you're looking around at those blokes, things come
Full
around
circle.
full circle.
Yeah. Now I'm into poetry.
Rooting a poet. Yeah. So where is the gig?
What rhymes with jism? Well,
That's a limerick.
yeah.
Yeah.
At Howler in Thornbury, which seats 200 people.
Yep. Date? You got a date?
Yeah. Thursday, August the 15th.
We'll put it on.
His name's Darby Hudson,
Darby Hudson.
which is a great name.
Yeah.
And that's his legit
Is that his
name.
real name?
Yeah.
Darby Hudson.
Sounds like a
I picked up a chick at the Espy once whose name was Victoria Day. I don't know if she's still out there. Hi.
Hi,
Yeah.
Vicky.
Yeah.
Victoria Day.
There you
No.
go.
Victory Day.
Victory
What am I on
Day.
about? Victoria Day's a shit story. Victory Day.
That's
I thought
great.
Victoria was quite nice.
Yeah, I thought it was nice.
Victory.
Victory Day. Showed me her license.
Victory.
Yep.
The winning blinds. That's great.
I picked up this other chick called Ream Hot Water. Rotten.
Brilliant. And Saturday Afternoon Fever.
Saturday
We'll
Afternoon
post
Fever.
a link, still on sale, the book.
Book's still on sale, and the podcast is pretty fucking good.
It's
and
fucking great.
You get Lawrence Mooney.
Yeah,
I've listened to
well,
it, so-
Everyone here.
If you like
big
good
Mooney
banter,
fans.
I'll post the links. And I don't know. Also, is there a possibility for anyone, maybe bring the stage show out again? And
that's what I'm thinking about doing.
How long is it? An hour.
It's an hour,
great.
hard hour.
All right. Well, let's make it happen because I reckon you could do it at pub. What sort of multimedia do you sort of need?
Big screen,
Okay.
sound system.
Can we do it at the G?
There's costume changes. It's like Britney Spears.
Jesus,
Yeah.
Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Bloody hell. What would they call them? Hardies. All the Hardies following everyone.
Hard-ons.
Hard-ons, the Hard-ons. Yeah, good band.
It's all
Yeah.
gone very gay, isn't it?
Yeah.
Righto.
No, it's
Thank
great,
you.
mate.
Pleasure.
Thank you very much, Hards.
Thanks very
really
much. No worries.
appreciate it, mate. Fuck, my hands are cold. Yeah. All right, we'll get you a feed, mate.
Right.
Thanks for that. Oh, do you?
I reckon I'll see when you're funny.
Nah, mate.
By the way, see it easily.
Good banter.